the touch that stopped the noise. The evening was loud, filled with chatter, laughter, and the constant hum of cameras flashing. It was one of those grand Hollywood nights, a charity gala where stars came not only to show their support but also to be seen. The room glowed with golden light, chandeliers sparkling above like pieces of a sky that had fallen indoors. People moved from one group to another, exchanging smiles that sometimes felt real and sometimes felt painted. Keanu Reeves stood near the far wall, quietly watching. He had been invited as always, but he was not one for the spotlight. His suit was simple, his hair slightly messy, his posture calm. He did not chase attention, but attention always seemed to find him. Tonight, though, he was not searching for it. His mind was elsewhere, wandering through old memories that never seemed to leave him completely. The noise of the room did not reach him in full. It was like listening to a distant sea, and yet beneath that sea there was a restlessness he could not explain. He felt it in his chest, in the weight of his hands, in the silence of his thoughts. Then, it happened. The room shifted. People turned. The door opened and Sandra Bullock walked in. Her presence was not dramatic. She did not try to steal the air, but somehow the air bent around her. She wore a simple black gown, elegant but not loud, her hair falling softly over her shoulders. Her smile was warm, and her eyes carried the same spark they had carried years ago when they had first worked together. For Keanu, the sight of her felt like a sudden pause in time. The noise of the gala dimmed, the sea grew silent, and all that remained was the steady beat of his heart. Sandra's eyes scanned the room until they found him, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. A recognition, a memory, a connection that had never fully gone away. She began walking toward him, her steps unhurried but steady, as if she had been meaning to do this for years. People noticed. Whispers began. Some smiled knowingly, others leaned closer to gossip. But Keanu's focus never left her. When she reached him, there was no grand gesture, no dramatic speech. She simply reached out, her hand gentle, her eyes kind. And in front of the entire room, Keanu responded with the smallest, simplest act. He lifted his hand and met hers with a gentle touch, and that was enough to silence everything. The cameras stopped flashing for a second. The whispers faded. The room felt suspended. That touch carried more weight than any words. It was not a staged moment. It was not a performance. It was a truth. People looked at them and saw more than two stars greeting each other. They saw history. They saw friendship that had endured years. They saw a bond that spoke of respect, humility, and something deeper that no headline had ever been able to capture. Keanu's eyes softened as he looked at her. "It's been too long," he said quietly, though his voice carried in the silence. Sandra smiled, her hand still resting in his. "Much too long," she answered. Their exchange was simple, but the energy in the room shifted. Those watching could sense it. This was not just a reunion. It was something heavier, something that stirred curiosity and emotion. But not everyone in the room was happy. From the corner, an old face watched them. Michael, a man who once worked behind the scenes of their most famous film. His eyes narrowed. His lips curved into something close to bitterness. He had stories, secrets, and his heart carried the weight of jealousy and regret. As the night unfolded, he planned to use those secrets to stir chaos. Keanu, of course, did not notice him yet. He was too focused on Sandra, too caught in the unexpected comfort of her presence. They talked quietly, their voices low, almost as if they wanted the moment to belong only to them. Sandra asked about his life, his projects, his peace. He asked about her children, her journey, her happiness. They laughed softly at old memories, moments only they could fully understand. And yet, even as their laughter rose gently, there was a shadow in the room, something pressing on the edges of their peace. For Keanu, the touch of her hand had reminded him of something he had long forgotten, the feeling of being truly seen, truly understood. But with that reminder came a fear. If the world saw too much, if the world twisted their truth, could this fragile connection survive? Still, as the evening stretched, neither of them let go of the moment. Because sometimes it is not about knowing how long something will last. Sometimes it is about finally allowing yourself to feel what has always been waiting. And so, while the world watched, they stood together, bound not by fame, not by performance, but by something far more powerful. Quiet truth. But the night was only beginning, and soon, the truth would be tested in ways neither of them expected. Whispers in the silence, the morning after the gala. The world was already awake with questions. Photographs of Keanu and Sandra touching hands had flooded every platform. Blogs, tabloids, and news shows ran the same moment again and again. People slowed down the video, zoomed in on their eyes, dissected every smile and every pause. Was it friendship? Was it something more? Was it a confession the world had been waiting for all along? Keanu sat quietly in his home, sipping coffee as his phone buzzed with endless messages. His agent had already called twice, his publicist sent urgent emails, and friends left voicemails filled with curiosity. But Keanu stayed silent. The noise outside did not change the truth he felt when Sandra touched his hand. Across the city, Sandra experienced the same storm. Her manager warned her to stay quiet, to avoid interviews for now, to let the frenzy pass. But Sandra's heart was restless. The night before had awakened something in her she thought she had buried under years of distance and silence. By noon, she sent him a simple message. "Can we talk?" He replied almost instantly, "Yes." Same cafe as before. The cafe was quiet, hidden away from flashing cameras. When Sandra arrived, she found Keanu already seated in the corner, his calm presence steady even in chaos. She sat down, her eyes searching his. "They've turned a simple moment into a storm," she said softly. He nodded. "They always do. Does it bother you?" she asked. He thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No, what bothers me is that it might hurt you." Her chest tightened. Even in the middle of this storm, he was thinking about her. That was always who he was. Humble, kind, steady even when the ground shook beneath him. Before she could answer, a shadow fell across their table. She looked up and her breath caught. It was Michael, the old producer who had been watching at the gala. He smiled, but his eyes carried no warmth. "Well, isn't this touching?" he said. "Hollywood's favorite pair together again. I knew last night wasn't just for show." Keanu's jaw tightened. "What do you want, Michael?" Michael leaned closer, lowering his voice, though the sharpness of it still cut through the air. "I want what's mine. I was there when your story began. I know what people don't. And unless you give me a reason not to, I'm going to tell the world." Sandra frowned. "What are you talking about?" He smirked. "Conversations. Private moments. Recordings from the set years ago. Things you thought were forgotten." He tapped the pocket of his coat. "But I never forget. And I never waste a chance." Keanu remained calm, though his eyes darkened. "Blackmail doesn't suit you." "Blackmail?" Michael laughed softly. "No, my friend. This is business. Give me what I ask, and I'll let your story stay yours. Refuse, and I'll make it mine." Sandra's stomach turned. She hated the arrogance in his voice, the way he twisted truth into threat. She glanced at Keanu, waiting for his response. Keanu leaned back in his chair, his voice quiet but steady. "You can spread noise, Michael. But noise fades. Truth doesn't." Michael's smirk faltered just slightly, but he masked it quickly. "We'll see about that," he said before walking away, leaving his warning hanging in the air like smoke. Silence filled the cafe again. Sandra looked at Keanu, her heart racing. "Do you think he's serious?" "Yes," Keanu admitted. "And that means we have to be ready." She exhaled slowly, her hands trembling slightly. "Ready for what?" His eyes softened as he looked at her. "For the world to question everything. And for us to decide if we're willing to stand in the open." Her breath caught. His words carried more than warning, they carried a choice. A choice that could change not only how the world saw them, but how they saw themselves. Sandra leaned closer, her voice almost a whisper. "Are you ready?" Keanu held her gaze, his hand resting gently over hers just as it had the night before. "I don't know, but with you I can be." In that moment she felt both fear and strength. The storm was building, but she was no longer afraid of facing it, because for the first time in years, she was not standing alone. And somewhere in the shadows, Michael was already preparing his next move. The storm breaks open. The following days felt like walking through fire. Headlines spread faster than either of them could control. Magazines speculated about their past. Talk shows laughed and exaggerated their gestures. And online voices argued endlessly about what that touch at the gala truly meant. Some fans defended them with loyalty, while others twisted the story into gossip and scandal. Sandra sat in her living room scrolling through the noise with a heavy heart. She had faced public attention before, but this time felt different. This wasn't about a movie or a rumor about her career. This was about something fragile, something she had only just begun to allow herself to feel again. Her phone rang, breaking the silence. It was Keanu. She answered quickly. You've seen the headlines? He asked, his voice calm but tired. I can't escape them, she admitted. Neither can I, he said, but we need to meet. Michael won't stop, and the longer we stay silent, the more power he has. They agreed to meet at night, away from the crowds, at a small park they both remembered from years ago. When Sandra arrived, the air was cool, the lamps casting soft circles of light on the path. Keanu was already there, waiting near a bench. When she sat beside him, there was no need for small talk. Their silence carried everything they both felt. He has something, Keanu said finally. I don't know if it's real or just another trick, but he wants to use it against us. Sandra frowned. What could he possibly have? We were always careful. Maybe conversations, Keanu said. Maybe moments that looked different from the outside. It doesn't matter what it is. If he spins it the right way, people will believe him. She sighed, running her hands through her hair. So what do we do? Keep hiding? Keep letting him control the story? Keanu turned to her, his eyes steady even in the dim light. No, we stop hiding. We take back the truth before he can twist it. Her heart quickened. You mean, tell the world? He nodded slowly. Not everything. Not every detail. But enough. Enough to make his threats worthless. For a moment she just looked at him, studying his face. His eyes carried both fear and determination. A mix of vulnerability and strength that she had always admired. And she realized something. He was not just protecting himself. He was protecting her. Before she could respond, a voice echoed from the shadows. Beautiful speech, Keanu. But words won't save you. They both turned sharply. Michael stepped out of the darkness, his smile sharp, his eyes gleaming with malice. He held a small recorder in his hand, waving it like a trophy. You should know me better, Michael continued. I don't bluff. I don't threaten without proof. And believe me, the world would love to hear what I have here. Sandra stood quickly, anger flashing in her eyes. This is harassment. You can't just follow us and… Michael cut her off. I can do whatever I want. Unless, of course, you give me what I ask. Keanu stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. And what exactly do you want? Michael smirked. I want a seat at your table. Your next big project, your name's tied to mine. I want back into the spotlight. And you're going to give it to me. Sandra's hands clenched at her sides. You think we'll let you drag us down just so you can climb back up? Michael's grin widened. You don't have a choice. Keanu stared at him for a long moment, then spoke softly. You're wrong. We always have a choice, Michael chuckled darkly. We'll see about that. But remember, every day you wait, every hour you stay silent, the storm gets louder. And when I finally release this, it won't matter what you say after. The world will already believe me. With that, he slipped the recorder back into his pocket and walked away, his footsteps echoing into the night. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating. Sandra turned to Keanu, her voice shaking. He's not going to stop. Keanu looked at her, his expression steady though his heart was heavy. Then neither are we. She took a deep breath, her hand reaching for his almost instinctively. If we do this, we do it together. He squeezed her hand gently, his eyes meeting hers with quiet strength. Together, he said. And in that fragile, frightening but powerful moment, they both knew. This was no longer about surviving rumors. It was about facing the world with truth no matter the cost. The edge of exposure. The next morning, the headlines grew sharper. Gossip shows shouted about secret tapes, and bloggers promised shocking revelations about Keanu and Sandra's past. Though Michael had not yet released anything, the threat alone was enough to fuel the fire. People wanted answers, and silence only fed their hunger. Keanu sat in his kitchen staring at his phone. Messages poured in, his agent begging him to make a statement, his publicist warning him that staying quiet would destroy his reputation. But none of their words mattered. The only voice he trusted in this storm was Sandra's. She called him before he could call her. Her voice was calm, but he could hear the tension underneath. We can't run from this anymore, Keanu. If Michael pushes first, we lose everything. He took a slow breath. I know. But once we speak, there's no going back. The world will never stop asking questions. Then let them ask, she said. But let them hear the truth from us, not from him. That afternoon, they met again, this time in the quiet of Sandra's home. The curtains were drawn. The world kept outside for a little while. They sat across from each other, the weight of the decision pressing between them. What if they twisted anyway? Keanu asked softly. She leaned forward, her eyes steady. They probably will. But twisting the truth is weaker than controlling it. If we stay silent, we give Michael all the power. If we speak, we take it back. His gaze softened. She had always been the one to find strength in storms, and he realized then that he was not just fighting for himself. He was fighting to protect the bond they had always shared, fragile but unbroken even after years apart. Just as they were about to decide, there was a knock on the door. Sandra frowned, hesitant. When she opened it, her manager stood there, holding a tablet with a pale face. "You need to see this," he said, stepping inside. On the screen was a leaked clip. Michael had made his first move. It wasn't anything scandalous. It was just an old recording from the set of their first movie. A moment where they were laughing together when the cameras weren't rolling. But the way he framed it made it look different, almost like a hidden confession. The video had gone viral within minutes. The comments were endless. Some celebrated their connection, others mocked it, and many demanded more. Sandra's stomach dropped. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. Keanu's face stayed calm, but his eyes darkened. "He wants to test us. See if we break before he plays his real hand." Her manager looked at both of them. "You need to make a decision now. Either deny everything or speak your truth before this grows out of control." Silence filled the room. Sandra turned to Keanu, her voice quiet but firm. "No more running. No more letting others tell our story. We speak." He nodded slowly, his jaw set with quiet determination. Together, that night they planned. Not a carefully polished Hollywood statement. Not words written by agents or lawyers. Just honesty. They would appear side by side at the upcoming charity event, and for the first time, they would tell their truth in front of the world. But Michael was not done. While they prepared, he was already planning his next strike. He had more recordings, more tricks, and he was not ready to let them win so easily. As the night closed in, Keanu and Sandra sat together in the quiet. Their hands joined, their eyes heavy but steady. They knew the storm was about to break wide open, and once it did, nothing would ever be the same. The weight of the stage, the night of the charity event arrived sooner than either of them expected. The city buzzed with anticipation. Reporters already circling the venue, their cameras ready to capture every glance, every word, every breath. The leaked clip from Michael had only fueled the fire. Now the world was waiting for the moment Keanu and Sandra would finally speak. In the car ride over, Sandra sat quietly beside Keanu. Her hands rested on her lap, fingers twisting together nervously. He noticed and gently placed his hand over hers. "Whatever happens tonight," he said softly, "we face it together." She looked at him, her eyes glistening. "Together," she whispered. The venue was filled with powerful figures, celebrities, journalists, and ordinary supporters. The stage had been set for speeches about hope and resilience, but everyone knew the real moment people were waiting for was theirs. As they entered, the room erupted in flashes of light. Whispers spread like fire as every eye turned to them. They walked hand in hand, not as a performance, but as a quiet declaration. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't staged, it was simply truth. Behind the curtains of the stage, Sandra took a deep breath. "What if they twist our words anyway?" she asked. Keanu's calm gaze met hers. "Then let them. Because the ones who matter will hear us clearly." When their names were announced, the applause was thunderous. They stepped forward, the lights bright, the cameras hungry. For a moment, Sandra's chest tightened under the weight of thousands of eyes, but Keanu's gentle nod steadied her. He spoke first, his voice calm, low but carrying across the hall. "For many years, people have asked questions about us, about what we share, and for many years we chose silence." The room grew silent, every camera leaning in, every word recorded. "But silence has given power to the wrong voices," he continued. "It has allowed rumors, lies, and threats to shape a story that never belonged to them. Tonight we want to take it back. Not with spectacle, not with scandal, but with truth." Sandra stepped forward, her voice clear but full of emotion. "What we share is not shame. It's not gossip. It's respect. It's kindness. It's trust. It has always been something we carried quietly, because it was ours, not the world's. But when someone tries to twist that into a weapon, we cannot remain quiet anymore." The audience sat frozen, listening. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. She continued, her eyes searching the crowd but always returning to Keanu. "Yes, we care for each other. Yes, we have shared moments that were private, honest, and real. And if that truth is too simple for some, so be it, because we are not here to hide. Not anymore." Applause broke out slowly, then louder, filling the hall. But amid the clapping, there were still murmurs, still questions. The truth had been spoken, but it was not the end of the battle. Backstage, as they stepped down, Sandra felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. But Keanu's face remained thoughtful. "What is it?" she asked. He hesitated, then said, "Michael won't stop here. He's angry now. And when a man like him is angry, he becomes dangerous." She frowned. "You think he'll try again?" "I know he will," Keanu said quietly. "And we need to be ready." That night, while the world debated their words, Michael sat in a dark room, his face lit by the glow of a laptop. The applause from the charity event played on his screen, but his smile was bitter. "Brave words," he muttered, "but words won't save you." His finger hovered over another file. This one, he believed, would shake everything. And as Keanu and Sandra finally allowed themselves a moment of peace, the storm behind them was only preparing to strike again. Truth that cannot be broken. The world reacted to their words with thunder. Some praised their honesty, calling it brave, calling it pure. Others questioned, twisted, demanded proof, hungry for more. But what mattered was that Keanu and Sandra no longer carried silence like a chain. They had spoken. They had chosen freedom. Yet in the shadows, Michael was restless. His first move had failed. The leaked clip had stirred attention. But instead of destroying them, it had only brought them closer. The charity event had turned public opinion in their favor, and he could feel control slipping from his hands. Late that night, as the city slept, Michael prepared his next strike. He uploaded another file, longer, sharper, a private conversation between Keanu and Sandra from years ago. Their laughter, their words of trust, the kind of intimacy never meant for an audience. He believed it would finally break them. The next morning, the file spread across every platform. It was everywhere. News sites, social feeds, endless streams of people analyzing every pause, every laugh. Sandra sat in her kitchen, her phone buzzing endlessly, her stomach twisting. For a moment she felt fear. Fear that the world would strip their truth apart and turn it into something cheap. But then the phone rang. It was Keanu. His voice was steady, even gentle. "Don't be afraid," he said. "How can you be so calm?" She whispered. "Because they're hearing what was real," he replied. "Our respect, our trust, our laughter. If that's the worst he has, then it only proves what we've always known. There's nothing to be ashamed of." Her eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of fear anymore. They were tears of release. "You're right," she said softly. "It's ours, and nothing he does can take that away." Later that day, they made another choice. They appeared together again, this time in front of the press. The room was packed with flashing cameras and hungry questions. But instead of denying or explaining, Keanu stepped forward, his voice calm. "You've heard recordings," he said. "You've read stories. But what you've heard and what you've read are not scandals. They are simply pieces of friendship, kindness, and trust that we shared. If the world sees love in that, then so be it. Because love in any form is nothing to fear." Sandra joined him, her voice steady. "We will not hide, and we will not let our story be twisted into lies. We stand together. And if that truth is too simple for some, then let it be, because we are not ashamed of who we are." For a moment, the press room was silent. Then applause rose. Not from everyone, but from enough. The message had landed. Outside, Michael watched from a distance, his expression dark. The files, the recordings, the threats, none of it had broken them. He realized too late that power built on secrets cannot last when the truth stands unshaken. That night, after the storm finally began to quiet, Keanu and Sandra sat together on his balcony, the city lights glowing below like 1,000 stars. The chaos of the world felt far away. Sandra leaned her head gently against his shoulder. "We did it," she whispered. Keanu smiled faintly, his voice calm. "We didn't let him decide our story. We chose it ourselves." The silence that followed was not heavy anymore. It was peaceful, filled with the quiet truth they had carried for so long. They knew the world would keep talking, keep guessing, keep twisting, but it didn't matter anymore. Because in the end, truth is not what others decide. Truth is what you hold, what you live, what you choose to share. And together, they had chosen freedom.